I think it's also important to mention that don't just judge a school by like where it is. For me, at least, I can say that because my school is in the middle of nowhere. There's not really a whole lot to do there, but I stay busy and it's really good. I think you can be successful anywhere you want to be as long as you have a good good friends, you have a good work ethic, and honestly, you're pretty busy. If you're going to be playing a sport, you're going to be pretty busy most of the time anyways. So.
Why don't we go through these next thing, and I'll talk about it, and then why don't you two guys, because you kind of lived it a little bit, then you can comment from your perspective. All right. So if we go to the part where the first page where it says advice for success at the college level. All right. So you make that commitment. You're going to go away to play at college. All right. Now, number one, it's important that when you get there, that you're a man. You're not a boy. All right? You've spent your due diligence in the weight room. You've developed your body and your strength, and you arrive on a regular routine, and you're a man. You're not a boy. All right? Because if you arrive and you're a boy, what happens is we basically waste the whole first year, because now you got to become a man. All right? Now the big difference when you go to college to play versus playing on your club team, who do you play with when you play on your club team? Who are the guys that are around you? Your friends, but they're also how old?
Your age.
The exact same age. All the clubs and the better clubs, you're playing with all kids that are 16 years old. Then you play with all kids that are 17 years old. All right? Well, when you get to college, depending on the situation, and you're 18, you're playing with 19-year-olds, you're playing with 20-year-olds, you're playing with 21-year-olds, you're playing with 22. And then there's always a couple guys that for one reason or another are still playing when they're 23. You know, they got redshirted, they got injured, or whatever it may be. And so now you got a guy that's 5 years older than you, or 4 years older, that's been lifting very hard for over 4 years. All right, he's a man. All right, he's not a boy. So you need to arrive as a man. All right, and if you do that, this is what happens, and I'll let these two guys speak about this after I mention this. Is number one, if you arrive a man, a lot of good things happen. The first thing of all, it gives you confidence. All right, it gives you a sense of confidence. Number two, in most good programs, you're going to get tested in some way. You're going to walk in the first day of fall ball, and they're going to do some kind of testing. The first day of the spring, they're going to do some kind of testing. It's going to be bench press. Like we have a bench press test, we have a dip test, we have a pull-up test, we have a running test. We're doing the same test for 29 years. Almost every college coach has some kind of testing. All right, and for us, we have what's called clubs. So if you pass all 4 tests, we have what's called known as the Gold Club. So if you show in and you bench your body weight, and our test is your body weight 10 or more times. You bench press your body weight 10 or more times. You do 15 pull-ups, you do 25 dips, you run a mile and a half, all right, 9 minutes. Number one, you're going to impress your teammates, and you're going to impress your coaches, you're going to have confidence, and you're going to be more apt to be ready to compete against those other guys around you who are a lot bigger and stronger also. All right, if you don't do that when you show up, now the whole year we're in makeup. All right, and now you really got to lift hard and you got to develop, and now you just kind of waste your whole first year because you're not a man. What would you two guys say about that?
I remember my summer between my senior and freshman year of college, Coach emailed us a weightlifting packet, the workout we were going to be doing as a freshman. And I not worked out in high school, did football, obviously. To me, it wasn't anything outrageous, but I made the choice to go in and work hard. And there was a kid from across town who was going to the same school, and he didn't do it. We went in freshman, first week of freshman year, started out fall ball. I was in better shape than him. It made a huge difference in my career there. But there were still those guys who were 5 years older than me, 4 years older than me, that just could have absolutely, if they wanted to, beat you up pretty good, put you to the ring very easily. So without taking that extra step that I took, 6 months in advance, I would have been where I was as a freshman. But it's everything you do. It goes to your grades and everything. But coming in ready to basically just work is what made a difference for me. And I think it's a difference between a lot of kids in high school programs around this area. We don't necessarily want to work as hard as the kids to get to the college level.
Jordan,
Yeah,
you wanna say anything?
I'll agree with that. And having graduated from this high school, I know that a lot of people play lacrosse kind of as a thing. That's what I started off playing it as, and I later decided I wanted to play it more seriously. Same thing, I mean, this summer between my junior year and freshman year, we got a whole workout packet, running, all that sort of stuff, and it definitely made a big difference actually doing it, for sure, because my roommate did not do it. And our first couple weeks of fall ball were very different. He was in a lot more pain than I was. As well as, talking about fitness tests, we have 5 of them. We have the wall ball test isn't really a fitness test, but it's still a test. There's a wall ball test, the jump rope test, bench test is the exact same as you guys's, and then 50 pull-ups, and we have a 300 test instead of a mile test. But they're all pretty hard. And just the other thing is, since our team was entirely freshmen when I came in, it was definitely crazy going up when we finally started playing games, and there were some games where we played the much better teams that it was men against boys, because we simply hadn't been most of their team was, or their starters were juniors and seniors, and our entire team was freshmen. So they'd been lifting, working hard, doing all that stuff for multiple years, whereas we had just come in and started doing it. So it was an interesting team to be a part of, but I liked it a lot still.
So, Rival Man, as much as we know about weightlifting at this point in time, it's amazing in the sport of lacrosse how so many kids still avoid all the knowledge they know that's so good for them. All right. Now, the second thing, when you're going through this journey and this process, all right, I think that it's important that you look the part. If you're going to go to visit a school and do a day visit, that you look sharp. You don't have to have a suit and tie, but you need to look good. All right. Don't show up with sandals on. Don't show up with some crazy T-shirt. Don't show up with a hat on in his office. You're well groomed. You look good. You got khakis on or khaki shorts, nice shoes. All right, nice polo shirt. You just look good. You look the part. You care about how you look. All right, which presents a great first impression. 3. Recruiting starts early. Do your best at all levels, academically, athletically, and socially at all times. Everything matters. First semester, your freshman year matters now. All right, everything matters. So you got to get going a whole lot earlier. All right. 4, and this kind of is why I think it's important you don't play too much in the summer, is that when you go play in these tournaments and your showcases, you learn to play every shift like it's your last. All right, because you never know who's going to be watching you. All right, so you go to a tournament, all right, it's your 5th game on Sunday afternoon, you're tired, you're beat up, mom and dad want to go home, you want to go home, and it's the second half, and you're a midi, and you run down the field, and you take a shot, goalie saves it, and you act like a dog, and instead of running back on defense, you just trot off the field and let somebody else run back on defense. Well, that just happened to be the time that the coach of the 3 schools you really wanted, even though you didn't know it, was over there watching you play. All right, and you made a really poor decision that's sticking out in his mind that, hey, you don't get back on defense. You're not the kind of kid we're looking for, or you just didn't play it. So play every shift like it's last. You never know who's watching you. All right, you never know who's going to be inspired by you or not inspired. I think that's really, really important. The last 3, 4 things in the sheet, it's all about you having a plan. All right, to the process and to the journey, and it's not just haphazardly approached. One of the greatest books I've ever read is by Rick Pitino called The One-Day Contract. And the whole premise of the whole book is that each day you have a plan to get the most out of it, accomplish all your objectives, all right, and that you get it done so that you're going to get another contract the next day. If you don't get it done, you're not getting another contract, and you're going to have to move on to something else. All right. So, of all the things for you guys that want to be lacrosse players, every day has a plan, it has an objective. Besides being the best student possible, hey, it's Monday. You're in the weight room for an hour, and Monday is chest and tries, and you have a plan for Monday in the weight room. You're not haphazardly, hey, I'm going to the weight room. Oh, Joey's here. Oh, what are you doing, Joey? Oh, I'll do what you're doing. No, you got a plan. Because Monday it's chest and tries, but then Wednesday's back and buys, and Wednesday's the leg day, and then we start all over again on Thursday and Friday, and we take Saturday and Sunday off. All right? And the same goes with the wall ball. You're never going to be any good in college if you don't play wall ball just about all the time. All right? But you don't just go throw the ball off the wall, but you have a wall ball routine. All right? You do this 50 times, you do that 50 times. You do this 50 times, you do that 50 times. And so that you get better at it, and you can shorten the process because you get quicker at it. But you don't just haphazardly just go throw the ball off the wall. It's 50 one time, one cradle out right hand, 50 left one cradle out. It's 50 cross-handed. It's 50 quick sticks right hand. It's 50 quicks cross stick. And there's a million great wall ball programs on the internet. But when you go to the wall, you got to plan. All right, and to get better, and you approach it like that each and every day. So the weaknesses that you have get developed, and you get stronger. All right, you get more skilled, and you improve. You start to realize your potential. One of the things that we always talk to our guys about is this little saying that we call it. You got to play at our level and to be great for our program, you got to give an uncommon effort at the common things. All right, an uncommon effort. So when we talk about wall ball, most of you guys in this room play a little wall ball. Maybe you do it once or twice a week, and you do it for 20 minutes. That's a very common effort. You're always going to be common. All right, but if you're that guy that's got routine and you're doing it 6 days a week for 35 minutes, that's an uncommon effort. And you're going to get a lot better, and now you're going to start to separate yourself from other people. And that all the things you got either that you want to do, whether it's the weight room, the wall ball, the shooting, if you really want to be good and play that next level, you got to have an uncommon effort, or you're not going to get better. Question?
I have a question about showing up as a man. What about the mental side of that? I went through that going into play Division I, and it was a mental game once I left the little pond as a big fish, and then I went to the big pond, and I was a little fish. I guess there was a mental part about showing up.
Yeah, well, I think the mental part. If you've done your homework and you've been given the effort to be a man, that the mental part is a lot more easier versus somebody that hasn't done it, and now his self-confidence is deeply destroyed because he showed up and he's way behind the 8 ball and he hasn't done his homework, and now he feels intimidated. He feels overwhelmed. But if you've done your homework, you believe in yourself, and even though if you show up and you're a little shortchanged in some areas, maybe you're not quite as strong, but you're close. Maybe your stick's not quite as good, but it's pretty good. Now you have the confidence because of your work ethic to go work even harder to close that gap with the other players, versus going to your shell and saying, "Oh my God, this guy is so much better. I'm never going to play here. I'm not going to get that."
Well, and the other part of that is your teammates are going to hold you to that standard too. All right. If they put in all the work and you haven't, they're going to let you know. All right. You're probably your leaders are going to be not the coaches so much as your teammates who are going to be telling you, "What's up here? Why weren't you lifting today? Why, weren't you at wall ball, or why weren't you doing this or doing that? Why didn't you, why'd you come back your second year out of shape?" Your teammates are going to hold you to that because, as the coach said, every game's important. It's important to them too because they want to win that conference championship. They want the playoff game at home. They want to succeed. And if you're holding them back, your student leaders are going to come at you. What do you need, Coach?
I just wanted this little part where I want to show you an example of that. So you show up and you work pretty hard, all right? And these two guys can tell you. Is there a whiteboard right there? Still, you're going to be a little overwhelmed because everybody's going to be a little bit better than you, all right? Charlie was fortunate he didn't have that same thing because everybody's a freshman because it was a brand new team, all right? So now everybody was a lot better, bigger, and older, all right? But you show up and let's say that this is your skill level, all right? That's your skill level. That's how high you are, all right? And you show up and it's first day and you start working with your teammates and you see a lot of other guys are at this skill level and there's a gap between your shooting ability, your stick ability, and their ability, all right? Now, the reason it's so important that you have to develop an uncommon effort at the common things, all right, is that you've got to close that gap. Would you guys say that's a safe assessment? You showed up, and what position did you play?
Mid-two.
He was a midi, all right? Are you right-handed?
Yeah.
He's right-handed, all right? And in college, you can't just have one hand like you did in high school, because you never dodge down the alley and you're right-handed and score a goal in college the first time. The defenses are too good, All right, there's going to be a quick slide. You're going to have to throw the ball back across your body, turn to the outside, and throw the ball with your left hand. If you can't do that, we can't play because we can't run offense. All right. So the guys who show up are a little bit better than you. All right. But you've been working really hard and you've been giving an uncommon effort. All right. So now you want to close this gap. Now you got to remember these guys that are there and you're there, they're a little bit better than you, right? But they're going to be working really hard too, so their skill level is going to get better too at the same time that yours getting better. So if you're doing the same thing they are right now, you're not going to close the gap. All right? If the guy that you're trying to get on the second midfield line is doing wall ball 4 times a week for a half hour, all right, he's going to be improving at a pace and keep getting better, and you're getting better, but you're still not closing that gap. So now you got to do it 6 times a week so that your skill gets a little bit better so that you can close that gap to get up where he is so that you get on the field. All right? And so that's important whether you have an uncommon effort. All right? If you really want to close the gap, and then what's that allow you to do? That allows you to get on the field sooner than later. All right? And so instead of having to pay your dues for 2 years, maybe you're fortunate because you do have an uncommon effort that you find a way to get on the field a little bit as a freshman or a lot, depending on your skill set, and you get to play more. All right? Because you've done your due diligence.
Coach, you used to do, I heard you talk about edge workouts. Do you guys still do those?
Excuse me?
Your edge
Yeah,
workouts?
what we mean by edge, and it's philosophy of our culture. All right? Our culture is based on working hard and commitment, but we always talk about edge workouts. All right? And edge workouts are the workouts outside of the normal 3 to 5 period. All right? And we always tell our guys, everybody works hard from 3 to 5. And we'll be fooling ourselves if the guys at Ohio Northern were working any harder from 3 to 5, or the guys from Mary Washington were working any harder than us from 3 to 5. All right? Because they're working hard. All right? And we'd also be fooling ourselves as coaches, as I tell our coaches, that we're just better coaches. That's why we're better, because we're just out coaching the Mary Washington coach from 3 to 5. If I'm saying that, I'm fooling myself. All right? They got good coaches. They do good things. All right? But we've always been able to inspire our players. All right? We talk to them all the time about doing the edge workouts, and that's the stuff outside of 3 to 5. So there's more wall ball going in our culture. There's more shooting going on outside of the 3 to 5 that allows our kids to get a little better in the skill set. All right? So we're always like, hey, did you edge today? Yeah, coach, I got an extra left in. You know, what'd you do today? Yeah, I did this. Because I'm trying to get better, and I know I got to do a little bit more than what the normal Joe's doing. You know, when we practice, for example, our normal practice time is in that 3:30 to 6 range. And in our practice plan each day, in the upper right-hand corner of it, is the coach's name who's the closer that day. All right, so a lot of coaches practice over at 6, everybody walks those stretches, they get off the field, all right, and they go shower and they go do whatever they want to do. All right, our closer coach can't leave the field until the last player is done doing whatever he wants to do. So if we got 8 guys that are staying an extra 20 minutes, a half hour shooting, that coach has to stay there, and he can't turn the lights off. He can't get them off the field. When the last player says, "Hey, Coach Berkman, I'm done. Go ahead and get the lights. I'm good." I leave, or whatever club. We take turns as coaches doing that. You know, it's just a little other thing that we do to try to do a little bit extra to help develop guys. Anything else?
How about cost? So if you go away to college and then you play a sport, do parents pay extra for the sport, or is that part of tuition? Sorry,
Every
this
school is
question.
different.
I just don't know.
Every school is different. If you go away and you're going to play on a college club team and not a varsity team, you're going to be paying money. I mean, you go down to CSU or you go to one of the clubs of all the colleges in Colorado, you're probably playing somewhere between $2,000 and probably close to $4,000 to play on that club team, because they're not funded by the school. They're club teams, and they're highly competitive, and they have good players, and it's a good experience. But you got to pay, your own way to play lacrosse. And so there is cost involved, and even at some schools, different schools have different things. I don't know what Charlie gets at his school, but I mentioned he gets a pair of gloves, but he might not get a new pair every year and a new helmet every year. And if the guys want to get new helmets every year, then they have to pay for the helmets together collectively so they can get that new state-of-the-art helmet. you know, and I don't know, you know, some schools buy you one stick, some schools don't buy any sticks, and you have to buy your own sticks. So every school is a little bit different on what you're going to get or, you know, or not get. You know, in some schools, you know, you don't have to pay for your uniforms, but you're wearing the same uniforms for 4 years. You know, in some schools, got a little bit more, and maybe they're getting new uniforms every year. But what happens to a lot of schools, and I don't know what you guys did, is, you know, the players in lacrosse, they like the swag, right? They like all the gear, they like the new stuff. There's a lot of mid-Division I, III teams that don't have the money to do that, but the kids want to do them. And so then you're almost forced into buying the stuff. Yeah, we want new gloves this year. The coach can't pay for them, but we're all going to chip in and pay $150 to get new gloves and new helmets. All of a sudden now it's $500 to play in that team, even though they provide what you need to get through, but not that extra frill that most lacrosse. Charlie, what would you say about your experience?
I mean, yeah, we get sticks, we get heads, we get helmets, and then we get a pair of cleats. And at least for this year, like, we all wanted the brand new New Balance. Like, they're super good looking, and they're gonna be our game cleats. So we all paid to get those, but like, we got our practice cleats. So like,
So every school is a little bit different. But all the clubs that you're playing in college, you're going to be paying the fee because it's not a varsity sport. And then if your team's going on spring break, usually if you're a school that's going on spring break, you're probably coming up with some money to go on the spring break because the school's not paying for your team to go to Florida or wherever. You got to come up with 5, 6, 7 if you're flying. Yeah. And every school's a little bit different in regard to spring break. Any other questions?
So it's not, if you're playing at the college level, Division I, II, or III, not every single one of those players is on a scholarship, correct? Or are there kids that just walk on, well, I shouldn't say walk on, I mean, you still have to make the team, correct? But is every one of those players getting scholarship money at some level or not necessarily?
In Division I, there's 12.3, I think, scholarships, all right, total. Not 12.3 a year, there's 12.3 in men's lacrosse in Division I for the whole team.
Oh,
The
right,
whole team, over a 4-year period.
right.
So that's 3.1 a year, all right? And all those big Division I teams all have 45 to 50 guys. So there's a lot of guys on that team that don't get any money.
Right.
And then some of the better guys, the highly recruits, are maybe starting out with a third. And if they do real well and make all conference, then they usually might get a little bit more. If they don't get any more. Or the coach might say, come, if you start, then we're going to give you a little bit the next year. There's not a whole lot of money in lacrosse. Division II has a little bit of money. In Division III, all the money is only based on merit. And it has nothing to do with athletic ability. It's all based on your academic merit and your need based on the FAFSA form.
Yeah, the last document there, Ken, has some of those sort of welcome to reality facts. We weren't able to get to it. The last, it's like 3 pages, I think, after the letter that the coach just went through. So Charlie, when we had breakfast, said you gotta play the game because you love it, because you're not going to get rich doing it unless you're a Paul Rabel. You know,
You're going to get a lot more money just because you're a better student.
yeah, it's
If you're a better student, you got a higher SAT score, you got a higher grade point, you're going to get more money from that school. Doesn't matter what level it's at. They're going to be able to give you a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, I mean, I was never like the greatest test taker, but I had a good GPA coming out of high school, so that's where the majority of my money came from. Yeah. And I'm still paying.
Do you mind saying what a good GPA is?
I had a 4.0.
That's very recruitable.
Yes.
It was actually a 4.03, but 4.0 cents.
yeah, coaches will talk to you. You're a 4.0 student.
And still, that wasn't good enough to get into some of the really, really prestigious schools. I mean, as far as like RPI, Swarthmore College, still, because I didn't have a good enough ACT, SAT score.
Any questions before we wrap it up? You guys want to add anything?
It's fun. Like college growth. It's worth all the hard work he's talking about. Absolutely.
Just be proactive. You got to go out and make things happen. You got to Take some initiative. You gotta help determine your own destiny. Don't wait for that magic carpet ride, 'cause it's not coming back.
Always make sure you're making first.
The only guys that are getting the magic carpet guy is that top 1% of the elite of the elite of the elite players. They don't have to worry about getting recruited. They're that good. They're getting found. They're elite players. They're the best players in the country. But we're only talking about maybe 50 to 60 of those guys in every given year that are playing at that high of a level. That you're going to be a Hopkins, Syracuse, or Virginia kind of guy.
What about schools with ROTC? Would that be a clash as far as available
You can do it in some
time?
schools. Most of the ROTC programs, when you're in season, they usually give you a little bit of break with some of the training.
Okay.
That maybe you don't have to because you're already training. You don't have to do the morning stuff. I mean, it can be done.
Okay.
And it's a way to offset the cost for sure. Great leadership training in the summer for you, and everything else. But it is another thing on your table. That you're going to have to commit some time to.
We do have a guy on our team, one of our goalies is an ROTC guy.
Okay.
He's an engineer, he does pretty well in classes. I mean, he definitely, certainly this year when he was coming back from his basic training, he missed the first, 2.5 weeks of classes.
Wow.
And, I mean, definitely putting him behind, he had to work a little bit harder, but he makes it work because he wants to be doing it. So, it's as long as you want to be doing it, you'll find a way to make it work.
Okay. But there's no coach's prejudice against that, I guess.
Well, it depends on schools.
Okay. Okay.
Every school, and even now, again, the different coaches have different philosophies. And there's a lot of D1 coaches now, for example, if Charlie wanted to be the face-off guy and he was really good, and he wanted to go to Maryland and he wanted to be, a computer engineer, they're going to tell him, Charlie, they ain't going to work for you. You don't have time to be a computer engineer and play lacrosse at Maryland.
Okay.
Because we're going to demand too much of you. We'll just get another guy that's relatively the same ability that's not a computer engineer. And they're pretty honest about that up front. So some schools won't, not so much at our level, but at some of the elite Division I team, because there's so much pressure on those guys to win, that they can find another guy that's just as good as Charlie at the elite level, who's not going to be, that can commit to 3 or 4 hours a day to them, not being studying 9 hours a day because he's a chemical engineer.
How many hours a day do you put in as a coach, other than just the practice time?
It's a pretty normal work schedule. I usually go in the office around 7:38, and we finish practice at 6:15.
So a 10-hour day for you isn't uncommon as a coach.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, just shows there's a lot of time put in on a lot of different levels, a lot of different people. So. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming so much.
Thank you. Thank you.